For the past 7 years, I've been researching a book called The Pink Line, The World's Queer Frontiers. And as I put this book into the world this month, I'm thinking about what I've learnt about pride that can help us in these times of a pandemic where we are all required to stay away from each other, and in these times of protest when people are taking the streets to stand up against racial injustice and police brutality. And two things come to me. The first is that pride has always been about queer people putting their bodies on the streets to demand dignity and protection from the law. From Stonewall onwards, pride began as a protest against police discrimination and brutality. And that's sounding very strong to me this month. But the second thing that's really been striking me is the way that when I came out in the 1980s, my way of coming out was by attending a pride event at my university. I was 18. But the young people I've met all over the world in researching my book have come out in a very different way. They've come out online. And this has given many of them the opportunity to discover themselves and figure out who they are without putting their bodies on the street. And particularly helpful this has been to people who live in remote places or in places where there's discrimination and pride isn't allowed because of the church or the mosque or the state. And I think we've got a lot to learn from those experiences about how we can find resilience and pride, even if we have to stay indoors. So with that in mind, I want to read you an extract from my book, The Pink Line, The World's Queer Frontiers, from the introduction. And the book begins with the story of Tewonge Chimbalanga, a transgender refugee who had to flee her home country in Malawi and come to South Africa, which is where I'm from, because she was sentenced to 14 years hard labor in jail for having a public engagement ceremony with her male lover. She's a transgender woman. This book is Auntie's story, and that of others from different parts of the world who have found themselves on what I have come to call the Pink Line, a human rights frontier that has come to define and describe the world in an entirely new way. While same-sex marriage and gender transition are now celebrated in some parts of the world as signs of progress, laws have been strengthened to criminalize such actions in others. Thus was a pink line drawn between those places increasingly integrating queer people into their societies as full citizens, and those finding new ways to shut them out. The expansion of the LGBTQ rights movement has sparked a new global conversation about sexual orientation and gender identity. It has created a new sense of space and identity for people the world over, but it's also created a new set of challenges as people attempt to toggle between the liberation they experience online and the constraints of their offline lives, or between their freedom in cities and their commitments back home. It has created new categories of people demanding rights, and it's also created moral panics. It's created new horizons as societies begin to think differently about what it means to make a family, to be male or female, to be human. And it's also created new fears. The Pink Line has run through television studios and parliaments, through newsrooms and courtrooms, through bedrooms and bathrooms, through bodies themselves. It has cleaved Auntie's life and many others too.